traveling walleye fisherman this year. This one's going to be a little different. I've got my pickup rather than my Buick, so that's already a massive upgrade. I got a topper, a cot, some pillows, blankies, and a buddy heater back there, so I can camp out of the truck rather than camping out of a tent. And that's just going to save me a lot of time. Heading to Mille for opener. We got jigs and crawlers, some max scent, and them new lab worms. So hopefully to eat that and I don't have to go buy shiners or minnows, because I fucking hate them things. Gotta stop quick and grab a hub kit, because I already used my hub kit last weekend. And maybe we'll get there without losing a wheel bearing and get back, but it never fails. I always lose a wheel bearing on a trip, so we just got to roll prepared. Anyway, that's what I'm up to. Rule 1, always grease your shit before you leave, or do it at the gas station 80 miles away from home, because you brought your grease gun and you forgot to do it before you left. Anyway, there's a couple of them that needed grease pretty bad and pushed a little bit of water out, so with any luck, that little bit of preventative maintenance is going to prevent me from having to do a wheel bearing on the side of the road. But I need to stop and get more grease now. Fuck. Left all that warm weather for this bullshit cold. But hey, I caught a walleye already. And it's only 8:30, so okay, overall success so far. And it was tagged. I got a tagged walleye. Not that that means shit, but it's kind of cool. Life of a traveling walleye fisherman camping out of your truck in Minnesota, the land of the liberals. Went to my buddy's last night to stay. Had these plans for a while, and pulled up, parked, and I was just camping out of the back of my truck. Got my little buddy heater back there. About 11:30 comes around, and I feel this, my truck moves, and I'm like, what the fuck? It wasn't windy or anything. So the truck moves, and I look out, and there's this lady walking around with her dog. And I was like, oh, she must just be curious. I watch her walk around my boat. She comes up the other side. She starts reaching in my boat and unplugging shit. So I push the back of the topper open. What are you doing? And I think she did piss her pants. Scared the hell out of her. We proceeded to get into a 15-minute conversation about who I was, why I was there, who I was with, and how dangerous it was to be daisy chaining extension cords together and plugging in. So, originally, I thought that I had negotiated with her that I would leave at like 4:30 in the morning and that we would be all right, and she was going to let me stay plugged in for a little bit. But at about midnight, out come her and her husband and flashlights, and I was like, fuck, dude, are they gonna come kick me out of here? They didn't kick me out, but they did go unplug me, and that was that. So I got up at 4:30, went and tried a couple resorts. Nobody was open to get checked in, and so I just came out to this campground, and they've got really good power out at the campground. So $35 boat charge. I checked in way early. The park ranger didn't care, and I got tonight's stay too, so we'll be good. Anyway, that's that. Cairns and homeowners associations don't like traveling walleye fishermen that go to Mille, but the HOA is on a different lake. And they don't like Iowa plates. So, part of the adventure. A lot of fun. Hopefully going to catch more than 2 walleyes today. What's up, everybody? This is Tyler with Let's Go Fishing Guide Service. We got ourselves our second Mille walleye of the day, and he's a little excited. So he came up and crushed it. Look at this gnarly. We'll let him go here quick. Here's the presentation. Pretty simple. Mission tackle, tungsten jig, crawler, couple split shots, Kalen sharpshooter bobber. I hate bobber fishing, but I have struggled. This is day 2 of the struggle, and I'm finally getting them to go. I've missed 3 other ones. I've caught 2 today, so I'm excited. starting to figure something out here. The trick with it is leaving the bobber really freaking high, and you get it over a top of like, find 2 or 3 of them, and then they'll just stand straight up on their tail and they're just rocketing it up and shit canning it. So that's what I got. I mean, I can't get them to do anything else. Maybe I need to start tossing a 16th ounce jig and letting it fall in 20 feet of water. I mean, that's tough, but I think I'm gonna try it. So thanks, have a great day everybody. Starting to look a little positive for old Tyler. So let's get it, Mille lax. Check this one out. That's a friggin' Mille lax walleye. See you, lady. What's going on, everybody? Well, I am preparing to head up to official practice for the Champions Tour Walleye event up on Mille lax. Just kind of tying up my last couple things here. I'm gonna tell you kind of how I'm rolling. I've got 4 slip bobber rigs tied up on the old bobber lobbers. Various weights and lengths, trying to find that kind of that ideal rig that they're willing to eat 90% of the time. The bobbers have been working really good. The other thing I'm doing is tying up some just plain old jigs for live bait presentations. I'm trying to take factors out of my setup right now. So right now I'm tying up 8-pound Seagar Braze X onto a 10-pound Berkeley X5 braid. I've been using the 10-pound Gin Clear as well, but I wanted to go with a little bit lighter, smaller diameter line to try out for just to try. I like to eliminate factors, right? So I'm not a big color guy, so I'm going to use something nice and natural. This one's like it's a white tungsten jig. Shields just came out with them. Super awesome. Got that Victory hook. Looks like they've got a double conical down here for the keeper, and that looks to be lead. So if you don't know how they make these jigs, 2 ways for tungsten. Either they use an epoxy and a tungsten powder, and that's where you get that bigger profile, or if you get this smaller pillhead shape or teardrop shaped jig, they're using they're ordering this, having it built or made for them in by some sort of manufacturer. Most likely, I would assume some sort of Chinese manufacturer, because I can find these on Alibaba.com or AliExpress. Basically a place where you go import stuff. So they're getting a slotted tungsten, just kind of like you get those slotted tungsten beads for fly fishing and stuff like that. So it's a piece of slotted tungsten. They lay the hook in there, epoxy those hooks in, and looks like they got that lead double conical bait keeper on there, so that should be good. So for my knots and stuff like that, for my Florida braid, all I'm doing is tying that Alberto knot. Pretty simple, quick. You can manage it in the wind,
still very strong. I think I've only made a mistake on one of these and had it slip and break. So slip or break, one of the two. It might have been, I know it broke at the braid. I'm not sure if the knot slipped or if I had a nick in my braid. And that was different braid. This X5 braid does not break. So you don't get the smooth castability of some of the other braids. You just have to make sure you're running full spools with this X5, but it doesn't break. Like, it's so tough, and it also doesn't freeze quite like other braids do. Some of them softer braids that I use that are superior for castability, they'll freeze up on your spools when it gets cold. I shouldn't have to deal with that, but there's a reason I run a mix of different types of braid on my rods and reels, and castability is one of them, but different qualities like toughness versus this is a more round line, and it does stick a little bit to the spool, but it doesn't freeze. So something I learned in a tournament and was so thankful that I kind of run a mixed batch of braids. I'm not all in on one company. So get that Alberto knot tied up here. Thought about tying loop knots for my jigs, but I think I'm just going to go with my improved clench knot like I normally run. Just a confidence knot. Wet that a little bit so I don't damage my fluorocarbon. Pull it tight. Make sure that knot lays real nice and small. And you have this itty bitty little knot that travels through your guides. Awesome. So there's two ways you can attack trimming your tag ends. You either trim them real short or you leave a little bit. Now in the wind, what I've noticed is if I leave a little bit in case that fluoro slips, right, it's just a little insurance policy. Sometimes that little fluoro tag end will catch the line when it's heading out of the guides and give you a big old wind knot. So we're gonna clip them real nice and tight because we're throwing a real light jig. Gonna get rid of 99% of that fluoro, and then the braid's a little bit softer, so you can leave a little bit if you want, but I'm never really worried about that braid failing. So that's that itty bitty little knot, nice and flat, travels through the guides, lays in the spool nice because we're using incredibly long leaders up there on Mille. And yeah, there we go. So we're taking factors out of it. We're using really small fluorocarbon. I had a guy tell me something really smart. He said, you can't break off if you don't hook up. And so when we take factors out of it, like downsizing the line, downsizing the fluoro and stuff like that, back your drag off, use these nice little small wire hooks that bend, they don't break. I've been having a lot of trouble with a jig that looks a lot like this. The hook's breaking. I mean, I've got a pile of them. There, you can't really, the hooks break off. So either I use those way too much and just take them to the point of failure, or they got a problem. So I know a lot of guys with a pile of them in their tackle box. We're all figuring out how to fix them because they're $5 a piece. So anyway, that's kind of what I'm doing today, getting ready to go back up to the pond and put kind of what I learned to the test for official practice for the Classic Bass Champions Tour Walleye event. Regardless of the turnout, it's going to be a good time. It's kind of exciting to see a new tournament platform come to the walleye world. I know Head to Head tried it out, and it didn't work. The entry fee was a little bit more manageable in this tournament, which is part of the reason I got into it. But I think they've got a really cool platform where they're, they have to qualify for the bass side, and I can see them implementing all these things in the walleye side too. It's a new, fun, exciting tournament platform, and it keeps you a little bit more local than traveling to all the crazy walleye places that we travel to. They fish some of our home bodies of water in the bass side, and I couldn't imagine that they wouldn't be interested in fishing like Spirit Lake or Okoboji on the walleye side too. So yeah, there we go. We got the ugly stick, that 6'9" carbon walleye, 1/8 ounce Shields tungsten jig, 8-pound fluorocarbon down to a 10-pound Berkley X5 braid, and we're rocking 99% pure fishing on this. I picked these rods up at the outlet store, and the reels. The rods were like $30 reconditioned, and the reels were like $20. It's kind of cool to be able to pick up. The carbon walleyes are actually really high quality rods. I'm super impressed. They're sensitive. You can do the old voice box check where you stick that rod up to your throat like that and talk, and you can feel that sound resonate all the way through the rod. So they're plenty sensitive. They're bulletproof, and I kind of like them. So we're tournament fishing with ugly sticks. Shields combo. 90% of the stuff I use is from Pure Fishing. I just realized that, and we're gonna go get after them. All right, final checks before I head out to the land, 10,000 lakes, to the big pond, to Mille. Cooler, food, rods and reels, bed, blankets, pillows, heater, spare parts, check, boom. All right, more rods, reels, food, etc. We have giraffes, we've got clothes, we've got life jackets, we got rain gear, we got rain gear times 2, we got cold weather gear, we got cold weather gear times 2, we got gloves, we got hats, we got water, we got baits. Let's get it. Let's get it. Off to official practice for the Champions Tour walleye event on Mille Lake. Shout out to Classic Bass for putting this on. I'm excited. I'm probably the most excited because it is a new, fun, exciting platform for us to go tournament fish for walleyes. And regardless of the turnout, I know that I am all in on the Classic Bass program and the Champions Tour walleye event. So hopefully a lot of people show up. Hopefully it's a good time. I've got confidence in them. They're look like they put on a killer bass circuit, and I hope that in the future they'll put on the same for the walleye world. And I also hope that I'm going to be competitive on this level. So off back to the pond. Better get buckled up and better get off my phone. So I'm excited. Got the bobber lobbers, got the jigs, got the crawlers. I got to stop up at the Crazy Minnow. Actually, he's going to be closed, so I got to stop at Casey's and grab some of them Crazy Minnow crawlers because those are always the secret to success. So have a good day, everybody. Thanks for following along, and I'm just going to continue to put out content this whole trip. I don't know what we call these. Big? Definitely not small. Let me show you a view from the other side. Big one, son. Gnarly.
This is insane. All right, you ready for this one? Look at that thing. That's a monster. She's like 9.5 pounds. I go, why won't these walleyes bite? I'll just throw a swim bait at them. Sled! Look at this thing. Thing's huge. God, they're pretty out here. Excuse my janky scale. Come on, dang. 6-pounder. That's awesome. Go get 'em, boys. Wonder if I know you guys. Oh, you are gonna go back into the woods. Not very far. These deer don't get hunted around here.
Let's go fishing God service! Clear Lake to Mille, let's ride! Big fish only, no rats on the garments. Sonar screaming, ringing like a church bell. No trolling, no spinner rigs, we cast that. Live scope locked, yeah we smacked that. Walleye X in the box, mission tackle on deck. Depth charge GTs, got them breaking their necks. No secrets in the God boat, every trip we learnin'!
All right, let's do it. I promised everybody I would do a breakdown of my Champions Tour tournament on Mille Lacs. So I went up there for opener. Took 3 days during opener to go up and get my just my references, figure out where the boat ramps were, figure out where I could eat, lodging, etc. Obviously, I did all my research ahead of time, but sometimes you just don't know until you get boots on ground. And I'm so happy that I got there, got in the water, and just ran around and checked stuff and looked at stuff. Side imaged a bunch, scoped a bunch. It wasn't really about catching fish as much as it was just learning where everything's at and how the lake sets up. So the really cool part about Mille Lacs is it sets up traditional. Like the book of walleye fishing was wrote on Mille Lacs, and I just seen that a bunch. So I was able to locate walleyes with my side imaging, put my forward facing down, figure out and confirm that they were indeed walleyes, and at about any place I stopped, just using wind direction, sun angle, this, that, the other, locating bait, and fishing breaks, fishing flats, fishing all sorts of different structure, rocks, sand, gravel. It was amazing to see how they set up and just how many walleyes there were at Mille Lacs Lake. I was absolutely blown away by that. It really is just such a neat place, and it allows you to fish so many different ways. It was incredible. So day one, I caught 2 walleyes. One was on a jig and shiner and one was on a jig and plastic. They suicide bit it. As soon as they seen it come down, they just smoked it. So those guys were hungry. Other than that, I couldn't get anything going day one. So that was my only fish I caught on a shiner, and then one on like a max scent plastic. So we did that day one. Day two, I caught 7 fish, and it was mostly with a 16th ounce jig and a night crawler. And that was in like 20 feet of water. It took a ton of time for the bait to get down there, but they liked that slow, wispy fall, and they were eating the crawler on the jig. As well, I was doing a night crawler on a slip bobber. That took a little bit to dial in, but they were biting that. Day 3, I could not get any night crawler bites and ended up switching to leeches and went to a Ned jig, or a tungsten stand-up jig, both by Northland. That produced about 20 walleyes and some mega smallmouth, like 5 to 6.5 pounders. So I started putting it together. I took off and came back home for a couple days, and it blew on Tuesday when I planned on fishing. So I actually chose to skip the wind, which I kind of regret later on, but I chose to skip that windy day and just head home. So I went back for official practice, got there on Friday and explored as much as possible, anything that I hadn't touched. My major focus on that first 3 days was kind of that. I worked Pikes Point, Garrison Reef, the spine there, the bay in Garrison. There's one bay south of there, I can't remember what it's called, but I worked the bay on the west end, St. Albans Bay. Came around, hit east and west Miramar Flat, worked in front of Red Door, worked all the way over to the Carlsona Sandbar, which I did really well on, and then into Malmo Bay. I did pretty well there too. I hit some offshore flats as well, some of those mud flats. There was a bunch of big walleyes out there, but they just weren't having my presentation. So yeah, I come back, and again, I just had to go explore as much as possible. So it'd be like day 4, 5, 6, and 7 on Mille Lacs, ever. I ran around and caught fish everywhere that I checked. But when it came go time, the lake split was the first thing that threw me off, because I had to run all the way across the lake in some big waves to get to my starting spot. It took me about 45 minutes to get to my starting spot, and I broke my poor windshield on the way out to that starting spot, and I soaked everything in the boat, including ourselves. So it was super cold, more focused on the cold than I was on fishing. And the last thing was, I must have something going wrong with my trolling motor pedal, because the trolling motor was like possessed and would take off randomly. And I'd have to kick the momentary button like 3 or 4 times to get it to stop taking off at 7. So that kind of messed with me the first period. I finally got into a groove there about a half hour to go, caught a almost 5 pounder and another 3 pounder. I think I was sitting at 7 pounds going into the second period. We were lucky enough to pull out into a bay. Also, I scrambled when I couldn't get my trolling motor to work right. I started scrambling a lot and moving too much during the first period, and then I rifled through baits knowing that I shouldn't have been doing that. So I think that I had a full tournament spin out right away in the morning, but ended up getting a couple fish, gathering myself, and we went into halftime with 2 fish, but we weren't sitting too bad. On our way out of the bay after the halftime period and getting reset and everything, I had a lot of confidence in that. Because I was going out the last boat, I knew I was going to stop at Miramar on my way out, and before I took a swing at anything else. I stopped at Miramar, ended up putting 1 more in the boat there, but on our way out to Miramar, my trim decided to quit on my main motor. Now what's funny about it is, it's not working again. So I don't know what's going on with my trim, but it worked a little bit the other day, and now it's not working again. So I think I've got some sort of wiring issue going on, either that or I've got a solenoid going bad. I'm not sure, but the trim motor works. It's just not getting power sometimes. So, that's crazy that it worked right when I got home, and now it's not working again. So I got to sort something out with that, but the trim went, and the boat was stuck in what I call Papa Wheelie mode. So I was trimmed up quite a bit coming out of the shallow bay so I wouldn't rub, and that's just where my motor stayed. Luckily, I was able to get out of the water, but I had to make some decisions and start running around pretty early. So I left Miramar incredibly early and made the run over to 3 Mile Reef, where I had a big fish pattern figured out, and I knew that if I was gonna make up any ground, I was gonna need some time out there. Ended up catching one more out there, lost another giant, and just didn't put it together. Once again, had to get lines in early, take off, head in early, just because I wasn't sure if I was going to make it back to the boat ramp. So what I ended up with was an 18th place finish. I'm not upset at that, being as that I battled a lot of adversity. Another thing that I need to add to this is on tournament day, I caught 4 scoreable fish. I caught another 5 non-scoreable walleyes that were at that 1.8 to 1.9 range, or I guess 1.8 to 1.9 pounds. There were some that were like 1 pound 15 ounces. So I had 5 other fish that I couldn't score, and then I caught like 7 very large smallmouth bass, and I got short bit a bunch. I just wasn't letting them take the bait long enough, and I think I got a little impatient there. So I had a lot of half leeches come back where walleyes were chomping them off, or they were tearing the heads off, leaving the head on the hook, and taking the rest of my leech. So I had about 15 bites that I just didn't execute on. 4 or 5 fish, maybe closer to 10 fish that I pinned, and I'd back my drags off because I downsized line and I wasn't getting a good hook in them. So there's a lot of mistakes I made and a lot of adversity that I battled on the water with boat gremlins that ultimately led to an 18th place finish in tough conditions against some of the best competition on Mille Lacs. And I'm still not upset about it. It sounds like the winning pattern was the pattern that I kind of figured out. And there's no excuses in tournament fishing, right? This is just what happened to me. So there's that. Overall, I was kind of disappointed in my performance and the boat's performance, but I did figure some stuff out. I learned a bunch at Mille Lacs, and I've hedged my bet a little bit. We're going up to fish an AIM tournament here in a couple weeks once I get the boat put back together and get the Storm Lake tournaments out of the way. So that's kind of my breakdown. The fish were anywhere from, we caught fish in 8 to 12 feet of water all the way out to 30 feet of water all week long. The winning presentation was that like a stand-up jig. I might have one here. Anyway, a stand-up jig or something like this, stand-up jig or a Ned jig and a leech on the bottom. Sometimes you had to hop it a little bit, but sometimes that hop, that little shake or vibration was enough to scare the fish. If they ran into your line because they were facing the wrong direction, also enough to scare the fish. And a lot of the time you just had to cast it out there, let it sit on bottom, let that leech or that shiner or that fathead minnow do the work, and hope that you detect the bite. A lot of the fishing was done on a semi-tight line or a slack line, and I just kept my finger on that braid in hopes that I would feel the walleye pick it up. So that was the pattern, and I think that's what the guys were doing to win the tournament as well. So that's great. As far as the Champions Tour event goes, look, guys, this was top-level walleye fishing. They had great communication throughout the whole entire thing, whether it was during sign-up. I know I had a bunch of questions for Dane, and he was always very responsive to my emails. So I appreciate you, Dane, for that. This was very well organized. They've got a team of not only media personnel, their tournament director, the marshals. Everybody was very well trained and spooled up on what needed to happen. There was not many questions to be had after our rules meeting. And I don't think anybody really piped up and had questions. It was super impressive to see how well they explained it. The prize packages were unbelievable. Look, we had 24 anglers in this tournament, and it's new to the walleye world. The National Walleye Tour guys were off in Lake Oahe doing their thing. They probably would have showed up. There's quite a few people that probably would have showed up, or maybe just didn't understand the format and how this would work, and hadn't been introduced to the guys with Classic Bass and the Champions Tour. But I believe their next event will be full. These guys did an amazing job. They had unprecedented media coverage and media production. These guys, not only with the Real Live Well app, but all of their Facebook coverage, their media team, their camera guys, cameras in the boat, they had it all going on. They got great photographs of every angler. I don't think anybody was left out in the photography portion, and they covered the guys that were leading and doing really well for their show. So I can't say enough about that, and them putting us walleye guys out to the world and showcasing us and our talents and what we're able to do. So that's great. The platform was super exciting and super enjoyable. There were some stressful things about it, which really just added to the tournament experience. One of the most stressful parts about it, and something that I'm definitely not used to, and a lot of walleye guys are definitely not used to, is our lake split, especially in those super windy conditions. You had to make a lot of choices, and in the morning you had to make a run. And you had to make it to the northwest end of the lake at some point during the morning, because that's where we did our midday break. So it took maybe running down, keeping that run a little bit shorter and running kind of downwind to the south end of the lake out of it for me, because I knew I had to make that huge pull right away in the afternoon. I was probably only going to get a couple hours of fishing and then have to run up to our spot for break. So exciting, enjoyable, difficult. There's a lot of things that played into it. One of the mental games you had to play in this tournament, and we don't talk enough about the mental side of tournament fishing. One of the mental games you had to play is that you got a 5-minute update on the leaderboard every 5 minutes. So your boat marshal is required in the rules to read off the leaderboard every 5 minutes, tell you where you're sitting and tell you what's in first place. That can mess with a guy. I was able to kind of fight that, not lose my tournament train of thought, but it definitely adds a different variable to tournament fishing that I'm not used to, and that was super cool to experience. Top level competition is something else I have written down here. There was a super high level of competition there. These were the best sticks on Mille Lacs, bar none. These are some of the best sticks in the walleye world. And I can't say enough about being able to compete against those guys on this platform. Lastly, I just look forward to the next one. There's my breakdown. Have a great day, everybody.
Upon further review,
Yeah.
it's this connector right here.
Oh. One, then.
So if I pull this out, nothing. If I push it in, trim.
I want trim.
Dumb. All right, I need an idea. One, I'm tearing apart all my wiring and getting that fixed because there's a bunch of janky wiring. But should I move this up here now that my bubble has left the chat? Should I put like I've got a 12 that can go right here on top of the console instead of a wind block or a windscreen? I think that might be better than this janky thing that bounces around and doesn't ever stay put. What do you think? Even my 10 would be better than nothing right up there.